Namaskar, I'm Dada Vedaprajinananda. Some people call me Dada Veda. And today I'm here to do a combined podcast and videocast on the subject, Pride and its Cure. And this particular program is related to one that I did recently, which was on the advice that was given by the Guru Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to his disciples 500 years ago. It's directly related to that. So this pride and its cure, it relates to the defects that come when people follow only the path of knowledge in their pursuit of the absolute. Because there are three main paths. There's a path of knowledge, action, and devotion. But when people acquire a lot of knowledge, then certain problems arise. People become pride. They say, oh, I have a PhD, I have this degree, I have that degree. So they feel they get puffed up with ego. So how to get rid of that? So what my guru says, he says, the golden rule of getting rid of one's defects is that one should create an opposite feeling in the mind and bring it into execution. Therefore, in order to avoid laziness, one will have to work hard. So work is the manifestation of the supreme entity. So everyone will have to work, and work in even larger and larger measures. So this is what we have to take the opposite. Now, the pride which creeps in due to acquisition of knowledge has very serious repercussions. It can lead to the complete downfall of the individual. Pride is mainly of three types, and each of these has disastrous results. Now here it gets very interesting. The first type of pride is conceit, which arises when a person thinks that he or she deserves more than what he or she is getting, which causes him or her to develop an overbearing attitude towards everyone. Anyone who indulges in this loses his discriminating judgment in the same way that a drunkard does. So a person is no different from an animal when they lose that discriminating judgment. Then there's another kind of pride. So the first kind is pride, is conceit. And the person thinks, no, I should be getting more than I'm getting. And the second one is called self-aggrandizement. So here he says, being puffed up with vanity. The person wants to project his or her image in an exaggerated manner. Often we hear a person saying that he has a rose in his garden the size of a balloon, when the actual rose may be the size of a ping pong ball. Constant indulgence in this type of activity converts the mind into crudity. And the third type of pride is prestige, which is the desire to make oneself known. Such a person expects attention from everyone and hankers after name and fame. This mental state can be easily compared with the mental state of the beggar. The beggar asks for money from others, but a person craving for prestige begs others to give him or her respect. Such a desire is really meaningless and possesses no value. So having analyzed, this is from the discourse, the various types of pride and their evil effects, it is necessary to examine the ways and means of getting rid of these defects. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave a psychological method for saving oneself from the malady of pride. Pride is really a mental ailment, and persons suffering from this disease require regular psychological treatment. In order to get rid of pride, one will have to inculcate the habit of being polite and humble. So just as straw remains lying on the ground, but remaining humble does not lose its importance, similarly, a person will never become insignificant by being humble. Only humility, like that of the straw, will save a person from pride. And to avoid pride, it is necessary to have forbearance and tolerance like that of a tree, which, though being cut, continues to give its cool shade. A person who's always engaged in the thought of his own or his or her own prestige must learn how to think of others' prestige. He or she must never forget that respect begets respect, and that he or she should honor those who are not being honored by anyone. This constant practice will remove the evil effects of the desire for prestige. The easiest method of doing this is to do namaskar. So this. But there's a catch to it. First, you should do it first and not create a situation in which you do the responding greeting. So you give respect first. A person moving about, puffed up with vanity and arrogance, and always engaged in self-aggrandizement, can only improve by utilizing his or her time in kirtan. That's singing the name of God, getting involved in that spiritual practice. If he or she keeps himself or herself engaged in this kirtan, this repetition of the mantra song, he will not or she will not get time to criticize and scandalize anyone in order to elevate themselves by comparison. So it is a must for such a person to do the kirtan to the maximum, so that he or she does not get time to indulge in the nefarious activity of criticism. Therefore, a spiritual aspirant who has set the Supreme Consciousness, or God, as his or her goal must always strive to get rid of lethargy and pride and gain the full benefits of knowledge. And he or she must work so to arouse and enliven devotion, which is true love, which is the only road to the journey's end. And he or she will have to engage himself or herself in the collective welfare, practice the qualities of humility, forbearance, and tolerance, and learn to honor those who are not honored by anyone, and participate and organize in this kirtan, or the mantra singing. So this is just, it's really, we spoke about it in the last time, that Chaitanya told his disciples, his students, look at the grass, and here he mentioned the straw. It gets walked upon, it's humble, but it keeps its importance. And the trees, they're cut, and they don't complain. Everything happens to the trees. They're out in the rain, they're out in the snow, they're out in the lightning, they're out in all kinds of conditions. And they not only, and he mentions it here, and I mentioned it in the last one too, not only do they bear the brunt of nature, but they still, even when that's happening, they're giving. They're giving their shade, they're giving their fruit, they're giving their flowers, they're everything. So we should be like that. So we should be tolerant. So we should be humble, tolerant, and we should give the respect to others first, and not seek respect from other people. People must give us respect. We should go out and honor others. And then what he says at the end is very important, because the problem with humans is that we, humans, I'm included in it, is that if we get any idle time, then oftentimes we may slip into the habit of criticizing and talking about other people. So we shouldn't allow any time for that kind of activity to take place. So this is the advice. This is what we have to watch out for pride, and the way to conquer it is the pieces of advice of Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We should be humble like the grass, tolerant like the trees, give respect to others, especially the down and the outs. That's the best thing you can do, is to give respect to those who nobody gives respect. And then finally, with our free time, our spare time, engage our mind in some very higher pursuits. And when you get engaged in a higher pursuit, then the mind can go down, and you can't be involved in any kind of activity that will be detrimental to you or the people around you. So this is all I have to say. It's kind of a repetition of the last one, but it's important to know. And I think when he described these different kinds of pride, you'll be able to know that in your own self, and even you'll see it in public figures, the different kinds of pride that they have, and we don't want that. We don't want that. So he said and the remedy is like a psychological treatment. So even those who suffer from that problem, we should treat them as patients in a sense that they need some treatment, they need some ailment, they need some remedy, and we should help and teach them and help them to get that remedy, so that the human society becomes a very good place. That's all. There's really not much to say here today. So I conclude with the namaskar, greeting, and I wish you all well. So if you like what you're hearing or seeing, then there are ways you can subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're listening on the podcast places, then you can subscribe to the podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, let me see if I have a thing here. No, I don't have it here. A DharmaCast. If you're watching on YouTube, you can find the podcast in Spotify podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and also on our website, dharmacast.com. That's what I wanted to provide the URL. But I have also on the video, you can see, if you go to my website, dadaveda.com, you will see at the bottom of that, there's a link to the podcast channel. So that's it. So I wish you all the best. And if you have any questions, send some email to me, either or send it on the comments if you're on the podcast platforms, whatever way or even if you're in the YouTube, you can also send comments there, or you go to my website, you get the contact for my email. So I'd like to hear from you. If you have any suggestions about future programs that we should do, I'm all ears. I want to hear from you. I want to give my maximum and produce as much as I can to share the things that I've learned in these past 50 years on the spiritual path. So that's all. And once again, I have to close with another namaskar, and I hope to be with you all again soon, either on video or on podcast or in person, hopefully one day. We'll be back again together. So take care.